All right. 7:18 p.m. 6/11/2023. Renew the library book. Still reading it. Don't want to give up on it because I want to read about what a jerk Bruce Stern was, even though I still like him. Reddit's going crazy because of some third-party app thing. I don't even fucking know. And they're gonna protest tomorrow, so that'll be fun. Still getting better because I was sick. Getting not sick. Still going down rabbit holes, which are fun for a while, but then it becomes a waste of time. Like, I go down these like true crime rabbit holes, like the Panama Girls, Chris Kramers and Lisanne Froon, and Jean Benet, and that kind of stuff. And God, you can lose hours, and it's not going to bring these people back. But it's terrifying to think that these things happen, and people exist that make other people disappear. In both cases, I think it was, well, clearly with John Bonet, it was foul play. I think it was, I think the family was involved. And in Chris Kramer's and Lisanne Froon, I think foul play was involved 100%. I don't think it was just an accident. I think something happened. And I'm never going to travel alone if I can help it. But back to Diane Ladd. I'm trying to remember where I left off. I haven't really gotten that far into this book. Remember that. Let's see. Let's see. Remember that. Let's see. Okay, I don't remember that. Let's see. Let me see. Yeah. Okay, I think I remember this part. This is continued reading from Honey Baby Mine. Page 47. They're talking about how doped up their grandmother was on morphine at the end of her life. Diane, the best was my vision when I had my death experience and left my body. I can't express to you how great the joy I felt was, Laura. It was better than any Snickers bar, Christmas present, Oscar, or orgasm. Nothing can ever compare to the bliss. It felt as if my soul left my body and traveled way beyond. I was standing at the entrance of a very large tunnel that was filled with extremely bright light, and there was two very tall beings standing at the entrance. I said, "I'm not going back," but they responded, "There are things you've left unfinished. Your family needs you." And I think maybe these talks with you may even have been part of that unfinished work. Laura, I find that so moving, Mom. Diane, phew. Enough heaviness. Let's talk about something light now. What do you say? Laura, yes, let's talk more about Grandma Mary and what a flirt she was. Diane, yes, she was a cross between Joan Crawford and Marilyn Monroe. Remember her little joke every time some handyman or mailman came by? Would you like a cup of coffee? And they'd say, "Oh, yes, please." And then, in a flirtatious way, mind you, she'd say, "Do you like your coffee like you like your women, strong and sweet?" I'd tell her, "Mother, you can't do that. Some man is going to take you seriously, and good luck." And she'd say, "Oh, don't be silly. They know I'm joking." About that. Laura, she couldn't help it. She was a flirt, a real Southern belle. Diane, she even flirted with your boyfriends. Remember when Ben came and met everyone for the first time and played us a song? Laura, yes, at my request, Ben played this beautiful song of his, "I Shall Not Walk Alone," for Grandma Mary. Then she slid onto the bench beside him and said, "That was nice. I play too, you know, but I play by ear." And she hit a bunch of random keys. Diane, Ben almost fell off the chair laughing. I think he fell in love with Mary in that moment. Laura, she really hammed it up when you got her that part in Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me. Diane, oh, that's right. She stole every scene she was in. Playing Trailer Park Folk, we ad-libbed dialogue about doing laundry and her aches and pains and about the other residents. Laura, did I ever tell you the advice she gave me when I was getting married? Diane, no, and I'm afraid to hear it. She was a strict Catholic, and I bet it was something about housekeeping. What did she say? Laura, she said, do you want to know the secret to a good marriage? Never go to bed angry, and be sure to live by the old saying, be a lady in the parlor, a cook in the kitchen, and a whore in bed. Diane, oh God, no. That is indeed an old Southern saying. How devastating. I can't believe that she told you that. How disgustingly archaic. I mean, what about the man? What's he supposed to be doing in each room? Why doesn't he have to worry about his behavior? You only hear about what women are supposed to do. Laura, you're right. And it's a problem because I'm not sure about being a lady. I don't even know what that looks like. I'm not sure how good of a cook I am, and I'll leave the last one alone. Be a lady in the parlor, a cook in the kitchen, and a whore in bed. Interesting. Diane, when she was young, Mary was such a strict Catholic that she was engaged for 4 years to a man named Joe Murphy, another Catholic, and in all that time they kept their promise not to have sex before marriage. You don't know that? She was a virgin, engaged for years to Joe Murphy, and then my daddy, handsome, sexy veterinarian Preston Paul Ladner, comes along. Oh, that's a cute picture. Laura, you had two passionate parents. Diane, you bet. And then after all that waiting with Joe, Ladner seduced her before they wed, and she got pregnant. Seems she felt guilty and ashamed about it, and so she lied about it to me and to everyone else. It only took me 70 years to figure out the truth. Aunt Johnny B accidentally told me that one time my mother said, Johnny B, don't ever marry a man just because he got you pregnant. And Johnny B figured it out. Laura, that's true. I never knew that. Diane, yeah, she never told me. She lied about it her whole life. Laura, Mom, I hear anger in your voice. Diane, yeah, she didn't care about the truth, as long as her little girl thought she was a good Catholic. I wish I'd been able to tell her when she was still alive that I didn't care. I wasn't her god, just her daughter who loved her to bits. Anyway, it explained why I wasn't a big, healthy 8-pound baby, even though I was born, quote unquote, early. I'm sure everybody knew, but I don't think they cared any more than I did. They were just happy, so happy that Preston had found himself such a beautiful, elegant, and wonderful lady for a wife. Laura, my impression is that she had such a hard time in her marriage. Mom, I know you adored him, but Papa did cheat on her a bunch, right? Well, she cheated on her? Diane, yes. Daddy actually cried later and said, I never cheated on your mother for sex. It was only about ego. I thought your mother had more class in her little finger than any woman I had ever met in my life. Holy shit. And somehow I never felt I was good enough for your mama. I loved her so much. Other women chased me. Oh, Lord. They did chase me, Diane. And there was a moment in time off alone, one drink too many, and I'd think to myself, why the hell not? It made me feel like I was really something special, like hot stuff. Laura. It's so sad, because it really devastated her, his infidelity. Diane. They loved each other, but unfortunately he succumbed more than once, ruining the marriage. Daddy said, cheating cost me the most important thing in my life. I loved your mother, I was a damn fool. A lot of men are damned fools. Laura. Thank goodness she got to have some fun later on after her divorce. And she was a flirt right up to the end. Remember what she gave you for your bridal shower when you married Robert? Diane, how could I forget? Laura, everyone else was getting you kitchenware and books, and then she gave you that box from Saks Fifth Avenue with a 1960s style black sheer negligee inside, like something you'd see on Bridget Bardot or Marilyn Monroe. The bottom hem was made of faux fur and feathers. All the women there oohed and awed over it and said, how sexy, just lovely. Diane, ha, yes. And I said, oh my God, Mary, this is gorgeous. And I just love that fur along the bottom. And Mary, age 80, said, yeah, it's to keep your neck warm. That was your grandmother, baby girl. Laura, yeah, the best. That's fucking hilarious. Oh my god. So she cheated on her fiance, and then her fiance then became her husband, and he cheated on her. Otherwise, Laura and Diane would not exist. Fascinating. Oh my god. Lady in the parlor, chef in the kitchen, and a whore in the bedroom. I don't know that I've ever heard that one. I've heard of the condensed, like, nice in the streets, freak in the sheets, I guess. I don't know. It's funny. I guess everybody received the same advice. That's why they cheated on each other. Anyway, Diane. My daddy Preston died when Laura was 14. I'm glad we were able to talk about him now because for all his failings as a husband, he was a wonderful father to me. And because I was an only child, I had his full attention. I spent the first few years of my life in Meridian, Mississippi. Meridian means dividing line. Then, at 6, we moved back to Chickasaw, Alabama. There were 2 reasons for the move. First, because my mother's sister, Aunt Bertha, lived in Mobile, Alabama, and was dying of cancer, so Mother wanted to be fairly close. And also because we were now in World War II. Gas was being rationed, so my daddy couldn't get enough to do his needed travel as a country veterinarian. So because he was never a lazy man, Daddy took a job as a pipe fitter foreman at the Chickasaw, Alabama shipyard. Pipe fitter foreman. Interesting. In 1946, after the war ended and Aunt Bertha had gone to be with the Angels, we moved back to Meridian. That town had a population of 60,000. But still, you did not pass another human being on the street without nodding and smiling at them. My father would say, hell, even dogs sniff each other. How can human beings pass each other and not acknowledge, hello, other human being? When I was a little girl, he made me think he could change the weather. We would be in the car, and he knew, of course, it was about to rain. He would say, want me to bring the rain for all the flowers and trees, honey? I'd say, oh yes, Daddy, please. I love the rain. And he'd chant until the skies opened up. And as the storm was lightening up, he'd say, Diane, maybe we should call the old sun to come visit. You want me to make it stop raining? And I'd be so excited, and Daddy'd say, okay. He'd say gibberish and then shout, stop raining. And he'd time it so the rain would stop as he finished his chant. He taught me to believe in magic. When I was a little girl, he'd say to me, girl, I will love you until the ocean wears breeches to keep its bottom dry. Weird. And when Laura was little, I said that and turned to her. That was okay. It's a nice. There's these inserts of these family photos, and they're very nice. God, she looks like her mother. Genetics are crazy. He had a gorgeous voice. He loved country music and I loved opera, and we both loved singing as we drove down the road on his work trips to sell medicine for chickens. He could write a song in 2 minutes, and he taught me how. I can write a song about anyone the second I meet them. Our very favorite was an old folk song that had been sung by working men building levees on the Mississippi River. It was recorded by Woody Guthrie in the 1940s as Crawdad's song. You get a line, I'll get a pole, honey. You get a line, I'll get a pole, babe. You get a line, and I'll get a pole. We'll go down to the crawdad hole, honey, baby, mine. Wow, so that's where she got it. Our family sung it as long as anyone can remember. It was Laura's favorite bedtime lullaby. She and my dad sang it when they first went fishing together, and to this day we use the lyric, honey, baby, mine, as a term of affection. There are so many stories about my daddy that it's hard to know where to start. When I was 10, he gave me a .410 gun for my birthday and he taught me how to shoot well. I learned that a gun is a weapon, not a toy, and that I needed to keep it clean. I used to clean it with a coat hanger and a rag. He said, if you have something in life, you've got to take care of it. Early one morning, he took me and my little gun hunting. I did not like the idea of hunting because I didn't like the idea of killing. But at least he ate what he killed, and he prayed over it, God bless him, so I agreed to go. My daddy raised the sweetest, most beautiful bird dogs in the country, so men would come from all around to go hunting with him. On one of these trips, he brought me along. These other men didn't particularly want to take a 10-year-old child on a hunting trip, but he said, "Don't worry, she can keep up." We trekked through the woods a long time, and finally the dogs took us to a place with deer, and they cornered a beautiful buck on top of a hill. This creature looked like a painting with the sun filtering through the trees. "Don't say a word," my father whispered to me. The men all raised their guns simultaneously. My daddy was just about to pull the trigger when, echoing through the woods, came a little voice, "Run, you little son of a bitch, run!" The deer looked up in alarm, and he did run, and he got away. I saved the deer. But of course, my daddy never, ever took me hunting again, which, of course, was fine by me. Many years later, I was having dinner at the home of Derek Washburn, a writer at the Actors Studio in New York. We didn't have much money, any of us, but Derek knew how to cook, and he made us a delicious meal of chicken livers cooked with wine and yogurt over noodles. I told Derek Washburn my hunting story, and he said, "Someday, I'm going to write a screenplay called The Deer Hunter." And he did. And he forgot to call me. They gave the part to a young Meryl Streep. Interesting. Years after that, when I created the role of Belle Dupree on the TV show Alice, based on the Scorsese film for which I created the role of Flo, I made my father a character by improvising stories about him. In my first appearance on the show, I sang a song he wrote, Uncle Bud, which earned him a screen credit and a check. When he was dying, he made me promise him that I'd sing another of our favorite songs, "I'll Meet You in the Morning," for him at his funeral. I made it through without crying, but it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. "I will meet you in the morning by the bright river's side when all sorrow has drifted away." Laura, I loved every second with Grandma Mary. Being with her was everything to me. Mary and I had so many fun times together when Mom was away working, and now that we're doing these walks, I keep remembering so many stories about her that I'd forgotten. One Halloween, my grandmother and my dad were taking care of me together in Santa Monica while my mother was away doing a play. Dad had bought all this candy for Halloween, but they had no trick-or-treaters. He was so bummed, and Grandma Mary could see how disappointed he was. He said, "Well, this is a wash. I guess I'm just going to go turn on the TV and watch a game or something." She said, "No, don't give up. I'm sure they'll come." Soon after, here comes a ring of the doorbell. A cute little kid dressed like a ghost was at the door to get candy. Dad was so excited that he grabbed the bowl and shouted, "Mary, Mary, we got one." The kid at the door grabbed a mound of candy. Dad goes, "Whoa, you just take a couple of pieces." Dad grabbed the kid's hand and looked at it. "That is a very old-looking hand," he said. He pulled the costume off the child's head. It was Mary. She'd thrown a sheet over herself and ran out the back door and around to the front of the house. That's how she was all the time. Mischievous, clever, the best playmate. My favorite thing to do was to play flight attendant. I was obsessed with being a flight attendant. We would set up the dining room chairs in rows. I would make Mary sit and then put all my dolls in the other chairs. I would walk up and down the aisle offering her and the dolls sodas and magazines. I loved trying to figure out how to carry a tray of drinks without spilling. We didn't have a washer and dryer, so we would hand wash clothes with a washboard. She'd have me help her, which I loved because she would always make it so playful. On the back porch, we'd set up a big tub of water. At some point, she'd throw water all over me and I'd get her back. Then we'd reward ourselves for our hard work by watching the Andy Griffith Show and I Love Lucy on her little black and white TV. I hurt my mother when, doing press as a young actress, I said that my grandmother raised me when my parents were working. I hated hurting her feelings, but I wanted my mother to know that leaving me with her mother when she went to work was the greatest gift she could have given me. Grandma Mary was my heart and soul, the cutest, most fiery, irreverent, sensual, hysterical dynamo you'd ever meet. She was obsessed with both Elvis Presley and Carly Simon, impeccably mannered and yet a fierce humanitarian. In much of the country, there's an idea of what a traditional white Southern woman from her generation might be like, what she might believe. But in so many ways she defied stereotypes. She grew up Catholic, the child of Norwegian immigrants, in a tiny, racially diverse suburb outside of Mobile in the 19 teens and 20s. Her spiritual beliefs and her experience growing up in that community gave her a devout sense of the duty to honor thy neighbor and to love and respect people equally. When the Rodney King incident happened and the riots started, this little woman, then about 70 years old, just about 5 feet tall and frail, put a folding table into her little Toyota Corolla and went to the supermarket. She bought a ton of food, bread, turkey, cheese, and then she drove to the South Central Los Angeles. By herself, she opened that folding table in front of the AME church and she made hundreds of sandwiches and started handing them out. When she wasn't handing out sandwiches to people, she was sweeping up broken glass. That moved me so much. People were in need. A community was war-torn. She was just there to help. To me, her memory is a constant reminder to cut through the noise and to try to meet people's most basic needs. My mother and I consider it an honor to have the blood of a woman like her running through our veins. There is no one who would ever enter my grandmother's home, not a plumber or workman of any kind, without being given a meal with cookies and tea. Grandma Mary was always shocked if someone acknowledged these acts of kindness. To her, generosity was as natural as breathing. You'd say she was doing something special, and she'd seem surprised. She'd say, "Oh, it's not special, it's just what you do." Walk. 4. The safety pin cross. Diane. I don't want to walk yet. Can't we just take a break? Laura. Hey, why do you seem so crabby today? Diane. I don't know what you're talking about. Laura. Look at your body language. Diane. I'm just tired. My body's tired. Too tired. Laura. Too tired for what, Mom? Diane. Too tired to live long enough to do everything I wanted to do. I'm better, but I'm not all the way better. I'm afraid for my grandkids. I'm heartbroken thinking that I'm not going to be around to take care of them. Think of all the wonderful things they have to look forward to. I don't want to not be there. Laura. Oh, Mom. It's okay. You're okay. And if you'll just keep walking, it's far more likely that you'll see the kids married in the full deal. How about we go to the next bench? Diane. There's a bench right there. What do you mean, go to the next bench? Laura. Mom. It's 12 steps to the next one. Diane. I want this bench. Laura. 12 steps. You know what really got you moving the other day? Talking about acting. Let's try that again. Let's get back into the question of why you weren't sure about letting me act. I mean, we know it can be a tough business, but what else? Diane. Don't you remember when you got a screen test for the lead in Adrian Lynn's Foxes? Then you didn't get the main part and were just offered a tiny role? When I came home, you were crying on the couch. Laura. I was not crying. I might have had a tear in one eye. I was more disappointed than hysterical. You always create a better story than me. Diane. Well, you were sad. My God, you cannot think of the pain that went through me to see my own little girl, 14 years old, going through. Laura. I was 11. Diane. No. Laura. Yeah. Diane. No. Laura. You were 14, but we told them you were 17. Laura. No. I was 11, and I said I was 14 for the role of a 17-year-old. Diane. My God. What was I thinking? Yeah, for an Adrian Lynn film? Yeah, Diane. And yet, how could we have stopped you? You were so young, but you got a screen test. But when you didn't get the lead and cried over it, that broke my heart. I said, you see, I don't want you going through this, feeling this rejection. And you said, Mother, how do I cope with this? I can't drink. I'm too young. I can't eat a ton of junk food. It would make my face break out. What can I do besides cry? See, you were smart even when you were suffering. I wanted you to wait to work. I said, train for a long time before you go to work, so by the time you're working, you'll be disciplined. I told you that you should polish your gift. I taught you the saying, how do you get wisdom? Well, the W in wisdom stands for willpower to do the work. If you drop that W off wisdom, then you is dumb. Laura, Mom, you've told me that saying a million times, and I don't want to stop you doing your thing, but I never needed a speech on discipline. I was very driven. I wanted to study. When we went to dinner at Lee Strasberg's house, he told us that they had children's classes on Saturdays in Hollywood at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute. Diane, really? Okay, you have a great memory, my child. Laura, that same year when I was 10, I did the kids' summer course at Harvard where we studied film and bodywork. Diane, and you did that course at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London. Laura, well, that was later at 16. Diane, lucky duck, mother is jealous. Meanwhile, when I was a girl, I was out on the country roads with my dad knocking on doors selling chicken medicine. What were you seeing in your parents that made you want to act? Was it about making money? Was it glamour? Was it our joy and creativity? Laura, I didn't see money then. I didn't see any glamour. I wasn't going to premieres. I didn't go that one time to the Oscars with you when you were nominated for Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Diane, that's pretty glamorous. What do you remember? You were 7. Laura, I was very proud of the dress you bought me, which was yellow with Swiss polka dots. I had my very magnifying eyeglasses on. When we walked the red carpet, what I remember is that it was so loud. Fans were screaming. Photographers were shouting for your attention. I was gripping your hand so tightly that my fingernails marked the palm of your hand. Even though it was a big moment for you, your focus was totally on me. You kept asking if I needed to go to the bathroom. When we took our seats, we saw that Ingrid Bergman was just in front of us. Oh, I'd seen a bit of Casablanca, and so I liked meeting her. And of course, a decade later, her daughter, Isabella, would come to be one of my best friends. I remember being so proud of you, Mom. You were happy that people enjoyed the movie. So many people were coming up and saying how much they loved your work and your character. But at one point in the night, I remember walking behind a teenage actress. To me, she felt 40, but she was probably 15. And stepping on the edge of her dress. She turned around and said, "Watch it, bitch." I was mortified. I thought, I will never be in the way again. Even decades later, I remember that feeling. Whenever I was on tour with Ben or on a friend's set, I'd always be terrified of being in someone's way. I never stepped on another dress hem again, I tell you that. I'll tell you that. And then years later, Naomi Watts and I met doing We Don't Live Here Anymore. We were each other's dates to an awards ceremony where I was reminded of that night with you. My dress had a little holes in the embroidery. Naomi and I were walking together arm in arm, laughing when I felt a tug on my dress. That memory from when I was 7 flooded back. I turned around and another woman's high heel had gotten caught in one of the eyelets of my dress. When I looked up, I recognized a woman who slept with an old boyfriend of mine when I was with him. She knew it, and I knew it, and Naomi knew it. We all looked at one another. And then the 3 of us set about politely freeing my dress from her heel. Walking away, I thought, if I could be nice under those circumstances, why couldn't that teenage actress have been decent to a 7-year-old she never even met? Diane, amen. Laura, it's exhausting to be mean. Why do people make that choice? Diane, I agree. But I wonder if you'd have been such a gracious lady if the wound was still raw. It's easier to be kind when time has passed. Laura, true. Diane, you didn't like the award shows much, but you did wind up liking going to the sets with me. When you were 6, I drugged you. Laura, you drugged me? Diane, I took you by the hand. You went with me. I dragged you to the set of Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Laura, oh, that was my all-time favorite. Going back to what we were talking about before, about how we fell in love with acting, that time with you on that set really helped shape my dream to become an actor. There weren't a lot of kids around on set, but you were a single parent and it was summer and I was well behaved, so I got to go with you sometimes. Marty saw that I was there, patiently interested, day in and day out. He saw me watching intently, never bored. And so when they were doing a crowded diner scene, he said I should be in on it. He said I should be in it. I can't read. So I got to be in the movie as an extra. I had been an extra in White Lightning, which you did with Burt Reynolds, but I didn't think that part made it in the final movie. Diane, no, I don't think it did. Laura, and then, and that movie set had not been anywhere near as fun for me. I was 6. Remember when Matt Clark's character menaced yours with a gun? I ran and grabbed your leg to protect you, wrecking the shot. Remember when Matt Clark's character menaced yours with a gun and I ran. Okay, that sentence doesn't feel right. I ran and grabbed your leg to protect you, wrecking the shot. Then that same day, an older girl was eating a popsicle. It was a really hot day and it stuck to her tongue and she started screaming, and someone went and got hot coffee to pour on her tongue to unstick it. Diane, oh, it's amazing. You went back to a set ever again after that. Laura, well, the Alice set was much different and much better. And not only did I get to be an extra, but another day Marty let me watch a scene you did up close. And I can pinpoint that as the exact moment when I truly fell in love with acting. He showed me into a little hall. There was a door cracked open, and he let me kneel down right beside him, looking through the crack while you were shooting that bathroom scene with Ellen Burstyn. Diane, I didn't even know that. Wow. Laura, and I loved listening to him talking with you about the importance of getting the details right. From why a certain hairstyle feels right for the character to how your character Flo would get angry and what she would do about it. When Mel would piss her off, her palms would sweat. And because you needed to hold the dishes, you had the habit of wiping your hands on your uniform before you picked up the plates. Diane, God, what a memory you've got. Laura, even at the age of 7, I understood you and Ellen were these phenomenal actors playing off each other. You showed her your safety pin cross and said, sometimes that's what's holding me together. Where'd you even find that cross? I remember it was blue. Diane, a wonderful waitress, had that cross on her. I said, I love that cross, honey. I'd like for a character I'm playing named Flo to wear it in my new movie. Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, directed by Martin Scorsese. Where did you get it? She said, I made it. I said, well, could you make me one for the movie? She said, yes, ma'am, but it would cost you a lot of money. I said, how much? And she said, $10. I paid it, and she made me that cross that I wore. Oh. Laura, it was a great detail, and I loved how your character talked about how you spent so much money on your daughter's dental work because your daughter had bad teeth. To this day, that is one of my favorite scenes in any movie. There are 2 scenes in that movie that, to me, are 2 of the greatest scenes of women on film. One was there in that bathroom. Diane, I love hearing all this. What was the other one? Laura, the other was when the 2 of them are sitting out in the sun and they're talking and their eyes are closed for part of it. They're talking about how getting lonely and being single and surviving, and they're laughing together. At the end of the scene, the camera cuts wide and the 2 of them are in lounge chairs stretched out in the sun in their waitress uniforms in the middle of the Tucson parking lot next to a dumpster. That's such beautiful filmmaking, it is. I agree. I think I really fell in love that moment with the way images can reveal behavior, expose vulnerabilities. Diane, wow. Laura, it wasn't just watching you work that intrigued me. It was your whole group of friends and the way they would talk about acting. I loved hanging out at Shelley Winters' duplex. Diane, Shelley was the best. Want to hear about how she described her life in her memoir? Laura, of course. Diane, a rocky road that leads out of the Brooklyn ghetto to 1 New York apartment, 2 Oscars, 3 California houses, 4 hit plays, 5 impressionist paintings, 6 mink coats, 99 films, and a liberated lady with a smog-stricken palm tree. Go, Shelley. Laura, I love it. What I remember is when I was probably between 7 and 12, she lived on Oakhurst Drive, 2 blocks from us in the flats of Beverly Hills. When we'd go over to Shelley's apartment, you guys would sit there on the couch sometimes with Gina Rollins or Maureen Stapleton or Colleen Dewhurst or Joan Shawley, who I so loved as the band leader in Some Like It Hot. I would lay on my belly on the cream-colored shag rug in front of the fireplace next to the terracotta clay bust of Marlon Brando. Ugh. I can still remember the feel of the soft rug and the sound of your voices. I'd be doodling or coloring or doing homework. and I became an invisible witness to this group of women sharing stories about what it's like to be a female screenwriter and producer and trying to get things made. Shelley would tell a story about catching her husband cheating. Someone else would talk about confronting a jerk in the studio system. These were women talking with each other about the craft and art and digging deep. Other girls my age might have thought that the life of an actress was all about glamour, but what I saw was much more interesting. Diane, we showed you movies too. Laura, that's right. You and Shelley were showing me Kubrick movies and French films like Les Diaboliques. As a result, when I started as an actress, I really wanted to play characters. I was chasing directors who were known for the thing that I watched Scorsese do with you and Ellen. You were never worried about a Vogue covered. You weren't afraid to appear on film with no makeup or as a character who was dangerous or strange or difficult. A Place in the Sun is a perfect example. That movie is about a poor boy whose connection to a poor girl prevents his getting ahead and marrying the society girl, so he plots the poor girl's murder. Which role do you want to play? The poor murdered girl, of course, who was played by Shelley, not the pretty society one, who was played beautifully, I should note, by Elizabeth Taylor. Diane, exactly right. I have to blow my nose. Diane, A Place in the Sun, a movie where, yes, the dude is climbing the social and corporate social ladder, really, and impregnates a poor girl only to murder her and get with Elizabeth Taylor, except he was found guilty in murdering the quote-unquote ugly girl for the pretty girl. It's a fucked up movie. Would you rather play Shelley or Elizabeth? You know, I don't know. Laura, or Diane, exactly right. Laura, the bravery of playing a character who grates on someone's nerves so much that they do the unthinkable. Because the acting in that film is so great, we can understand his rage, his sense of being trapped, but also feel horrified by him. Shelley didn't shy away from the brilliant choice of giving Montgomery Clift's character a reason to do what he did. Yeah, she was annoying as fuck. The movie doesn't work without that. I mean, what are you going to do? Hire a homely actress and he kills her because she's not pretty enough for him and he goes off with a goddess? Yeah, that's kind of what happened. No, you hire Shelley, who is incredibly attractive in her own way, but also much more complicated. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. Shelley, I say this as an ugly woman. Shelley is not Elizabeth Taylor. It's glaringly obvious. It's a pretty girl, ugly girl story. The dude murders the ugly girl for the pretty girl, except he's found guilty and he's executed. Shelley isn't unattractive, but she's not attractive in the way Elizabeth Taylor is. That's awful to say, but it's the truth. But let's hear what Laura has to say. You hire Shelley, who is incredibly attractive in her own way, but also much more complicated. That was the example I looked to when I got the opportunity to play roles like the ones in Smooth Talk or Blue Velvet early on in my career. Without growing up around you and Shelley, I don't know if I would have understood those characters or known what to do with them or understood the vulnerability and the complication of the world of David Lynch. Diane. Wow. Chokes up. Laura, just now in that one moment you made me so proud that I am an actress. This is so exciting. You know, one of the reasons I hesitated in encouraging you into the business is because it is horribly rough. I used to think politics was really bad, but I believe that show business makes politics look like a kindergarten class. I don't know about that. I'm sure both are awful in their own ways. Laura, but the art makes that stuff worthwhile. And those dames trying to make it. I remember a male producer once saying to me, ugh, your mom and your godmother are tough. Those are tough women. It didn't sound like a compliment. I was shocked and confused by his hostility. Only later did I realize what he meant. What he meant was you were honest. You told the truth, you were direct, you would defend other people. If any of you saw a young extra being harassed or treated inappropriately, you'd be the first person running across the set shouting, "Hey, don't treat her like that." If you saw an injustice, you would voice it. You and your friends were part of my inspiration for the character of Amy Jellicoe in Enlightened. Viewers think, "Oh no, here she comes." You know she's going to screw everything up, but that character has good intentions. And ultimately, she would be the person who gets in the street and makes change. When I first pitched the idea for my character in HBO, my line was, "What if Lucille Ball became Norma Ray?" Diane, I love that. Laura, she's one of those people someone like that producer would call tough. Hell yeah, women like that are tough because they're going to be the one who says that's not okay. You can't treat people like that. Acting was a vocation that allowed for this. When I looked at you and your friends, I thought their job, their life's work is to tell the truth. Shit. I want to sign up for that job, a job where you're paid to find the truth of the thing. Your job then becomes an opportunity to have a voice in the world. And because I was introverted, I think I enjoyed that even more, having the opportunity to disappear into characters. Diane, whatever part I have in your education, I will happily accept. I remember watching you as a girl in Mask with Cher, and you did an incredible acting job, but also you were so disciplined. Without my even telling you to, you did the proper research. You went to this place where a lady taught horseback riding to children who were blind or living with other disabilities. She taught you how to ride a horse as if you were blind. I was so proud of you. I was so impressed with how you used every bit of emotion you had to create this performance. Laura, oh mom, thanks. That means so much. You've always talked about loving to act as long as I can remember. Diane, I love the work. Everybody says, I could be an actor. It's as if they think, I could be a doctor or I could be a lawyer. Really? No. You can't be a good teacher unless you've got a gift. Everybody has a different gift. And Laura, how great you found yours. Laura, thanks, Mom. But also, given that I was not your son but your daughter, did you have other concerns for me specific to being a girl? Okay, she's trying to get Diane to crack open about the underbelly of show business. Diane, Laura, do you even have to ask that? Of course, every magazine you pick up is using sex as a commodity to sell dresses, makeup, perfume. Remember when we did Wild at Heart and I painted my face red, which is awesome. I talked about it. She lipsticked her face. I love it. I kind of want to do it, but it would take days to get off, I'm sure. When we got to filming, David had had me painting my face with lipstick. I couldn't help but think about magazines telling women, if you use this lipstick, men will all come running to your door. That's fucking hilarious. And I imagine that my character, Marietta, would think, if I use the lipstick more, then even more men will run to my door. Yeah, I'm sure. The industry demands so much from women, Laura. I didn't want you to face that pressure to look a certain way. You're so beautiful. And I couldn't bear to have a casting agent ever tell you that you weren't. And you know they critique the looks of every actress. They always have, and they probably always will. I didn't want that for you. Laura. But what's great is that you taught me to seek out radical female characters who weren't defined by their looks and who were complicated. I mean, I got a lead role in Smooth Talk when I was 15 and filmed it when I was 16. The girl I played was still a wild innocent and coming into awareness of her own sexuality. But she gets scared when she's pursued by an older man played by Treat Williams. Okay. I'm going to take a pause here and talk about Smooth Talk a little bit, I guess. I saw it last year for the first time, and it's a good movie. She does play a girl who's coming into puberty and her own sexuality, but she's a girl, but she's a girl trying to be an adult in an adult world, not ready for the adult circumstances. And she does a really good job in it. And Mary Kay Place is a real fucking bitch in it. Yeah, she has a rambunctious teenage daughter, but she's her character is such a bitch. Smooth Talk, good movie. Didn't really have much to say. I mean, I could talk about it, but I'd rather people go watch it. It's a good movie, and Laura does a great job. Diane, yes, That's what I'm talking about. It's so much better to be the complicated woman, not the one on a pedestal. I am so glad you and I have opted out of the cult of perfection. It's a losing game. I agree. Why don't we stop teaching one another that we're not good enough until we have the perfect dress, the perfect car, the perfect house, the perfect mate, the perfect shoe, the perfect spoon, the perfect meal? Why don't we stop doing that to each other? We never will, Diane. And that's what show business can feel like. If you're a doctor or a lawyer, no one ever says your backside is too big. And by the way, what is your bust size? Laura, are you asking me my bust size? Diane laughs. In this business, people ask things like that all the time. Laura, you're telling me. One time in my teens, right before I was about to walk into a scene with the camera behind me, a costume designer handed me a big bag and said, "Put that over your shoulder and carry it in the back so it hides your butt." She made it seem like it would be really horrible if anyone saw that I had a curvy butt. Everybody does. I remember trying to hide my butt after that, even from boyfriends. It took a long time to get over that. The truth is, even at my skinniest, I had a booty. I've had a booty. I will never not have an ass. I finally realized that I would need to either celebrate it or live in shame. Diane, as if that's a bad thing to have. How awful of that costume designer. Laura, the actual work of acting when I was young was always so incredible, but the business side of it, the publicity machine, could be brutal. When we were doing press together, especially when I was 23 and playing these sex siren characters, remember how some journalists would say really inappropriate things? I felt so lucky that you and David had my back. I remember one journalist asked you, "How does it feel to have a sex object for a daughter?" That is horrible. Diane, yuck. Laura, exactly. Do you remember what you said? Diane, no. What? Laura, I don't know who you're referring to, but I'm not definitely proud to have such a great actor as a daughter. And then I think you said to Annette Wolf, Laura's lifelong publicist, "Someone needs to wash that reporter's mouth out with soap." Diane, wait. See that dog walker over there? He's looking at us like we're fighting. We should smile. See, we're not fighting, young man. We're just a loving mother and daughter yelling about show business. Laura, ha, it's true. People are giving us weird looks. Diane, let them. The actor lives between chance and oblivion. Laura, well, all I know is working with you was fun as hell. Diane, honey, all I know is that I was born to be an actress and so are you. Coughs. Laura, here's the good news, Mom. Either you love a good story, you love talking about the movie business, or you enjoy your daughter talking so much that we pass 3 benches. Ha Laura, a few years ago, I found something that Tennessee Williams had said about my mom to a journalist, and it floored me. Diane is like a splash of Tabasco sauce, tart, tasty, and capable of turning the bland into something exotic. I've been overwhelmed by her candor in both her work and her life. Her grasp of God and the manner in which his angels compel the creative artist is firmer than that of anyone else I've known. Wow. From those who have worked with her, I've heard that she has, between her technical outpouring of the craft and her mental emotional creation of acting art, the thinnest layer of gauze, meaning that she is perfectly clear, as Shakespeare told us all artists should be. Damn, dude. That's I think you made your mark with that, dude. Or Diane. I love what Tennessee said about my mom's talent. It's so true. And not only of how she is as an actor, but I also saw that rawness, that transparency, and how she raised me. I don't know that you can separate the two, the mother and the artist. That quality in her is what inspired me the most to act without an agenda, without playing chess, without hiding behind veils, pulled not only in front of others, but also in front of oneself. I long for that kind of clarity in art and in life. You hope every time you're looking in the eyes of another actor that everything else goes away, and suddenly you're telling each other the truth about your lives. And it doesn't matter what the story is that gets you there, it's the vulnerability, the availability, the sharing of something so tender and so enraging and so complicated and so funny that just makes you one like your family, even if you're strangers. But if it's your mother, it's all those things a million times over. There's no one else you have that much of a shared story with, not your husband or wife. You share a chapter with them, but often your parent shares your lifetime. and knows you even before you know yourself. Damn, man. Tennessee Williams said of Diane Ladd, Diane is like a splash of Tabasco sauce, tart, tasty, and capable of turning the bland into something exotic. I've been overwhelmed by her candor in both her work and her life. Her grasp of God and the manner in which his angels compel the creative artist is firmer than that of anyone else I've known. From those who have worked with her, I've heard that she has, between her technical outpouring of craft and her mental, emotional creation of acting art, the thinnest layer of gauze, meaning that she is perfectly clear, as Shakespeare told us all artists should be. I mean, that's a hell of a compliment. That's incredible. Damn, dude. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm looking at their pictures. These pictures are so great. Oh, they've got like communion pictures, camp pictures. I love the pictures from like the 60s. I forget what the film stock is called. Kind of embarrassed, but that's okay. Laura, oh, she's so pretty. Diane, oh, these pictures of Diane are so pretty. She's so pretty. Oh my god, she's so gorgeous. I wish I was that pretty. Diane, 16. Oh my god, it's so pretty. I think I'll do one more and then call it a day. Walk. 5. Bent spoons. Laura. Today, Mom, I wanted to start this walk off by praising you for how far you've come already. Even through this health challenge, I've never seen you as a person who just survives. You live with such passion, and we're getting you healthy, aren't we? And we just need you to take those vitamins we talked about. Diane, how many times do I have to tell you? I don't want to take any more damn pills, Laura. It's enough. Laura, okay, geez, I'll lay off. And I'll go back to complimenting you. You're so determined. I've heard Ben say to the kids, Nana always has a dream. She never gives up on her dream. Diane, that ex-husband of yours, he knows about dreams. He certainly found his incredible gift, and he's right. I've always had faith. It probably has something to do with how I grew up. You know, because my given first name was Rose, I was enamored with St. Rose of Lima, Peru. She had long hair like I did. When I was 13, I was very impressed by her. She cut off all her hair so she wouldn't be attractive to boys. I decided I wouldn't cut my hair off. If I did, I might decide I didn't want to be a saint and it'd be too late. I'd just be a regular girl nicknamed Baldy. Laura, very practical. You seem to have enjoyed Catholic school. Diane, well, the nuns at St. Mary's Church in Mobile, Alabama impressed me. To be more like them, I would go over to the church each day, sit in a pew, and I'd stare at the statuettes to see if any one of them would come alive and appear to me. I'd give up my lunch hour to that activity. Every day I would go over to pray. And then one day, when I was in 5th grade, the nun came in and said, Children, which one of you is running over to church at lunchtime? The other kids thought I was going to get it. They said, Diane does it. The nun says to me, Okay, Diane, I want to tell you there's a letter here from this man, and I'm going to read it to you. Laura, oh, right. This is vaguely familiar. Didn't you save someone's life or something? Weren't you involved in helping save someone's life? Diane, well, this man's wife and child had been killed in an accident. He was on his way to commit suicide, and he saw this little child going to church on her lunch hour. He stopped and he said to himself, if she's going in there, either there's something awfully bad in her life she's got to ask God to help her with, or she's going in to ask God to help the world. Either way, he said, if a little child can have that much faith and give up her lunch hour to go in, why can't I keep living and help make the world a better place for other people? The nun said, Diane, that man decided not to kill himself because he saw you praying. So you just keep up that good work. Laura, amazing. When I was a kid, I always knew that you and Grandma both had resounding faith. It made me take faith seriously, seeing how much sustenance it brought you. Catholicism is so theatrical. I love the storytelling of it all. The parables, the idea of angels, and it's not just Catholicism. I even like to believe in flower fairies. Being a believer makes for a more interesting life, don't you think? Diane. Yes, it really does. I'm so glad to hear that. Laura. You and Grandma definitely gave me that rooted belief in something larger than what we see. That's helped me a lot of times I felt out of control or afraid. I can have a deep trust that there's something bigger happening. You exposed me to so much spiritually as a kid. And I'm so lucky because you really did make me aware of so many paths. Grandma gave me the ritual and tradition of Catholicism, but while I was being given that, you were simultaneously telling me that you didn't agree with. I love that you were never big on the shaming part of organized religion, and I was so lucky that you taught me to be open to my unique spiritual path, whatever that would look like. I will never forget that in church on Sundays when we would say the Nicene Creed, particularly the that goes, I believe one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. You would lean over and whisper, "You don't have to say that part if you don't want to. You don't have to believe in one path. There are many roads to God." When I was 8, you taught me to meditate. We would go to mother-daughter yoga class and learn breathing techniques. At 12, I was pro-choice Catholic who believed in reincarnation. I think that's why I later studied Sanskrit at Loyola and gave my daughter a Sanskrit name. Diane, well, I'm honored by that. You know, I was just remembering when I was growing up my first boyfriend. When I was 6, Joe Pat Caskey was Catholic, and when I was 7, my boyfriend was Jewish, Louis Rosenbaum. Laura, you had 2 boyfriends before age 7? I didn't have a boyfriend until my junior year in high school. Diane, you know, Catholicism influenced me positively in many ways, but it also gave me a bit of a savior complex. Laura, you still have something of a savior complex, Mom. I know how many stories there are of you saving someone's life in one way or another. I know they're all true, but it's almost unbelievable. Diane, it is all true, and you're one to talk. Didn't you want to be a saint too when you were growing up? Laura, of course. I wanted to be Saint Bernadette, the patron saint of the ill and the poor. Diane, one of my all-time favorite songs is the Song of Bernadette. It's about filling your heart with courage, understanding, and wisdom. Saint Bernadette was a poor 14-year-old girl when the Virgin Mary appeared to her at Lourdes in 1858. She held fast to what she believed in, even as the rest of the world tried to sway her. Laura, yes, and as a little girl, I imagined I was her. When I was 6, I used to dig in the backyard with teaspoons. I assumed that if I was a saint like Bernadette, holy water was going to gush forth and I could heal everybody in the neighborhood. Grandma Mary kept finding spoons bent and twisted by the tire swing. She'd ask me, "What have you been doing with all my spoons?" Diane, precious. That's better than what I did in our backyard as a little girl. My grandma found me out in the yard and said, why are you eating dirt?" I said, "Somebody told me it's good for me and it would keep me healthy." My grandmother said, "Let that child eat dirt if she wants to." Laura, well, that was lucky for you. I got a spanking from Grandma Mary. Diane, no. Laura, yes, because I ruined her yard and bent all our spoons. She got so mad at me. I was so mad about the spoons, too. I'd been feeling so spiritual and connected to God. I was praying so hard. I was so holy. By day 5 of digging, I was flinging the spoons around, shouting, "Damn, Bernadette, where's the friggin' holy water? And why the hell aren't you appearing to me?" Which reminds me, Grandma also washed my mouth out with soap. Diane, oh no, why? Did you talk back? Laura, no, never. It was for cursing. Belina and I did cuss like sailors. We used to tape record ourselves saying every dirty word we can think of as fast as possible in the voice of Howard Cosell. And then a boy at school taught Belina and me a rap. Let's just say it began, "I hate to talk about your mom, but she's in my class. She's got popcorn titties and a rubber ass." At which point I was lifted by the seat of my Catholic schoolgirl uniform. And the next thing I knew, I had a bar of soap in my mouth. Diane, yes, but you never cussed again. Laura, are you fucking kidding me? That's why I cuss so much. Diane, well, Mary never should have spanked you for the bent spoons. She could have given you a hug and been proud of you. That kind of faith and belief can make somebody a great actress or a great doctor or a great anything. I'm sure if the holy ones did ever look down and see that holy a child, they'd have smiled on you. I bet You put one heck of a smile on Bernadette. Laura. At least she could have magically helped me unbend the spoons. Diane. Ha. I made sure to give you some amazing godparents so you'd have a good spiritual education. Shelley had that tree in front of her apartment, and every time she went anywhere, Laura, she would stop and put both hands on the tree and bless it. Diane, that's right. And she would say, God made a tree. And speaking of Shelley and trees, one time Shelley threw a big Christmas party and invited a lot of people from her temple. I was over in one corner, and a lady from her temple came over to me and said, Shelley Winters has a Christmas tree. She said it with an edge. And I said, yeah? Why does Shelley have a Christmas tree? And I said, I don't know. Why don't you go ask Shelley? She said, I will. She walked over to Shelley and said, Shelley, you have a Christmas tree. Shelley replied, yes. Isn't it wonderful? I've never had a Christmas tree as a child, and I always wanted a tree, and now I have one. The woman said, but Shelley, a tree is Christian. A tree represents Jesus. And Shelley, in a tight, stern voice, pointing her finger at the woman, said, don't you say anything about that man. Jesus was Jewish, and so am I. And don't be reductive. He had a lot more going for him than a Christmas tree. Just look at the following he's got today. Laura, she was the best. Diane, oh my God. I just remembered a New Year's Eve party I went to with her at the writer Norman Mailer's house. Oh, God. We entered the foyer on time, and Norman wasn't even downstairs yet. We were told he was still getting dressed. There was nobody else around except a caterer organizing appetizers. The place is shockingly unkempt, Shelley said to me. Look how dusty these staircase banisters are. And they really were. Oh, Norman Mailer's house was a shithole. It's not that big of a surprise. We didn't have anything else to do while I think we must have wiped away about $1 million worth. What? On the banister? What? Norman Mailer kept cocaine on a stair. That doesn't make any sense. Interesting. Laura, oops, that's hysterical. You know, I always think about how she loved Johnny Carson, but she was often the butt of his jokes. That can't have been fun. Was she hurt by that? Yeah, because he's a prick. Fuck him. Diane, you think she would have been, but she had so much fun with him and loved being on Johnny's show. Did you ever see a clip of her on Johnny Carson with Oliver Reed, who played Bill Sykes in Oliver? Laura, no. I remember we visited her one time on set when she was making a movie with him. Diane, well, in 1975, they were on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson together, and Reed was horrific. He kept talking about how women are happy in the kitchen and how women's lib was a bad idea. He said a woman's place is looking after her man and her children, and he kept shushing her and the women in the audience. Shelley was off stage at the time, but she came back on and dumped a glass of water, and I said, ooh, I wonder if that's on YouTube. Laura, oh my God, what a badass. Diane, you know, Shelley often played the dumb blonde, but she was brilliant, and sometimes out of nowhere she would push back in a radical way. Her ability to ride that line is part of why she was so popular on late night TV. Laura, yes, that's why Johnny loved her. When I think of her, I think of such a strong, outspoken woman. Man, I hate that she ever felt she had to play the game. Everybody does, babe. I'm so grateful you made her my godmother. Thank you. Diane, you're welcome. And on that note, let's head back to the car. I think this was plenty for today. Laura, come on, Mom, let's do a little more. Diane, I've got to stop. I'm tired, honey, I really am. Laura, but Mom, it's just a... Diane, no. I said I'm tired. Laura, Mom, we have to. The doctor said... Diane, will you fucking stop it? God damn it. This is my body, and you don't have to kill me trying to save my life. No more pushing, I mean it. I said it's enough. Laura, okay, I'm sorry. I'll get the car. Over the shoulder. I guess you still cuss too. Laura, it's difficult to know how hard to push Mom. On one hand, I want to make her exercise more than she thinks she can. On the other hand, I know she's frail and I don't want to upset her. When should I be her cheerleader? When should I be her nurse? When should I push her for her stories? When should I give her space? A year ago, I would have waited for her to say whatever she wanted in her own time. I want her to know that if she's scared of dying, she's not alone. But at the same time, I don't want to cause her any more grief by sharing with her how upset I am. And yet, who told us that we're supposed to be nothing but upbeat around people who are sick and dying? Why is it that we are supposed to go into their hospital room saying, "You look great, you're hungry today. That's a good sign, you'll be out of here in no time"? What if these walks are my last chance to hear her stories? I can't pass up this opportunity to tell the truth. You look tired. We don't know how much time we have left. There are so many things I want to ask you before it's too late. Uh, so, I want to check real quick because I want to see the copyright on this book. This book was published, like 2 months ago. Okay. I don't know when her questioning was, but the fact that Diane Ladd had been exposed to an environment with like these chemicals in the air, these toxins in the air, she got better is great. But let's take a look at her. She's 87 years old. And she still has breathing problems. I'm glad they did this book together. I'm glad Laura has a good relationship with her. And she has another child. I'm not sure. Let's see. 2 daughters. Diane Elizabeth Dern. Oh, who died. Okay. I think they said that. Okay. God, no wonder they're so close. They are so close. It says, in 2018, Ladd was misdiagnosed with pneumonia and given 6 months to live after she inhaled poison spray from the farms neighboring her home, constricting her esophagus. Her daughter Laura transferred her to another hospital where she made a full recovery. Okay, but she's 87 years old, and I think she still has breathing problems even though she made a full recovery. I'm glad they got to make this book. I just it's a little hard to read. The topic of aging parents is a close one to me, and it's difficult, and I'm glad they get this time together. It's important, and I'm glad they're sharing it with the public. I think they're not sharing everything, which is good. You shouldn't, because that's an important part of life, is sharing private moments between people, and that does make it special. But they're sharing some private parts with the public, and because there is something to gain from it. And I'm happy to read it. I'm 5 chapters in this thing, and it's not very long, and I have it till the end of the month, and I'd like to get it back before then, but I don't know. This is very touching to read, and hopefully I'll continue on with it. I didn't mean to make a Diane Ladd series, but here we are. And her part in Inland Empire tickles me. It's hilarious. She plays this, like, I don't know if body's the right word, but talk show host, interviewing Laura Dern and Justin Theroux as 2 leads in a film, and she's goading them about how, oh, you're not going to have an affair, you're not going to, Mama's lock up your daughter's doors. Are you going to be true to hubby with a wolf in the den? It's an awful movie, but it's fun to watch. I don't know. I'm enjoying reading this book. It's good. Johnny Carson's a prick. Glad he's dead. Good book. All right. Thanks for listening. And maybe I'll do more. Love you.